The Kia Soul is a very unique vehicle as it's pretty hard to categorize it. Whether you want to call it a crossover, wagon, or a hatchback, the Kia Soul certainly has many appealing attributes. So, let's go ahead and check out this 2016 Kia Soul. Now let's first start off of what the Soul is. Now, the Soul is most likely a wagon, and it competes with vehicles like the Scion XB as well as the Fiat 500L, but it's kind of a dying class since the Scion XB is soon ending production, and it used to compete against the Nissan Cube too, which ended production a while ago. Now, as far as styling goes on the Soul here, it certainly has a lot of soul in its styling. Now, some people would call it dinky looking or funky looking, or in other words, cute. But on higher end trim levels of the Soul, you do get some pretty nice looking LED daytime running lights, as well as HID headlights too. Now, the Soul, in my opinion, is certainly one of the best looking wagons in the class. Now, you also do have 16-inch alloy wheels too. They are okay looking, not the best, but on higher end trim levels they do look a lot better. Ours is a fairly basic trim as well. Now, here goes the key fob for the vehicle. As you can see, it's your standard Kia remote keyless entry key fob. You do have your lock, unlock, and then to release your trunk, and then you have your panic button too. We also do have a switchblade, which comes pretty nifty. Now, it's a titanium gray exterior color with a black cloth interior, manual driver's seat adjustments. Now, stepping on inside of the Soul here, the step-in height is fairly low, and the cabin design for the vehicle is pretty good. It's getting slightly dated, however, it's still pretty stylish overall. And it's probably certainly the most stylish one in the class of wagons. Coming to your transmission, you have an optional 6-speed automatic. This is what you will find in most Souls. You also do have manual shiftability, but no paddle shifters here. Unfortunately, a rear view camera still doesn't come standard on the Soul. You still have to option for the convenience package. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the lights and the hazards too. Automatic driver's side window. Let's go ahead and pop up the hood, check out the engine bay. Like I said, you do have 16-inch alloy wheels. Halogen headlights. Fog lights are also optional. They'll be slotted right in that little circle right there. Now, under the hood here, we have the base powertrain, which is a 1.6-liter inline 4-cylinder engine, and it produces 130 horsepower at 6,300 RPM and 118 pound-feet of torque at 4,850 RPM, with the EPA estimates being an okay 24 in the city and 30 on the highway. And it is front-wheel drive, and it does run on regular unleaded fuel. A 6-speed manual is going to be your standard transmission, and then you have an optional 6-speed automatic, which is what we have here. Now, your optional powertrain, which I recommend getting, I recommend avoiding this powertrain as it feels pretty anemic. I recommend going with the optional 2-liter 4-cylinder that you will find on the Plus as well as Explain models. Now, while the Kia Soul doesn't have any main direct competitors to go head-to-head with, some vehicles to consider includes the Scion XB, as well as the Fiat 500L and the Jeep Renegade.
Will, in detail, 5117, please, Will.
Now, coming to the rear, you have a rear window defroster with a rear window wiper and rear reflectors. Now EPA estimates, like I said, are 24 city, 30 highway. Total vehicle price is $18,135. Of course, you have all of your basic powered features: power windows, power door locks, and power mirrors. And let's go ahead and rev it up. Alright, so driving the 2016 Kia Soul. Now, I think the best part about driving this vehicle is certainly its steering. The steering is pretty precise feeling, and I usually don't say that about a lot of Kias. And I can really feel for where this vehicle is trying to go. It doesn't feel numb at all or anything of that nature. I just really love the steering on this vehicle. And I think it's still pretty easy to drive too at the same time. Now, when you do kick it into the sport mode, it doesn't really change a whole lot. The steering still pretty much does remain the same. And the sport mode and the different driver selectable modes are pretty much there for show. And there's basically the sport mode and then the comfort mode as well as the normal mode. Of course, the comfort mode is for if you want a very comfortable highway ride or anything like that. And then your normal mode is for like everyday normal use. But I really just don't feel a huge difference between three different modes here. And that goes with a lot of other Kias too. I don't really feel the difference in their different driver selectable modes. Now, power from this 1.6 liter four-cylinder is okay. I would certainly get the 2 liter four-cylinder. Now, it certainly does have enough passing power, and the fuel economy isn't too shabby, but the 2 liter four-cylinder just gives it that oomph that you really need in this type of vehicle. Now, let's get to the ride quality for the Soul. Now, when you do opt for the optional higher end trim levels for the Soul and get the larger wheels, the ride quality can get quite harsh over a rough pavement. Now, when you do have the more basic trim levels with the more basic kind of wheels, the ride quality isn't as bad as the other ones, the higher end trim levels. The ride quality is actually quite comfortable, and it does soak up road bumps pretty darn well. And I don't really feel too many road bumps here. I'm actually really impressed with the ride quality for this Kia. So overall, I think the 2016 Kia Soul is an excellent vehicle to drive with its pretty capable handling as well as its pretty strong optional powertrain. But remember to get that 2 liter four-cylinder, not this 1.6 liter. Like how we have here. The 2 liter four-cylinder just provides the power that you really do need, and then it also has somewhat similar fuel economy. The fuel economy doesn't drop too much with the 2 liter four-cylinder, but the Kia Soul just feels just right behind the wheel. It's not trying to be a sports wagon or hatchback. It's just feels right with its steering and everything, and I think it should fit pretty well with the average consumer. Now, build quality and materials inside of the Soul here are not too shabby. You have nice soft touch materials up here on the upper door panel, and then on the mid door panel it's wrapped in a nice cloth, and then on the armrest it's nice and soft touch. Up here it's a hard touch plastic but really nice graining, and then it's all soft touch plastics up here on this part of the dashboard. And then build quality is pretty excellent. Not too many panel gaps inside of here. Trying to find if any of the interior trim and pieces creak. Not a whole lot. You will find a little creak here and there, but not too much. Overall, build quality and materials are pretty good inside of the Soul here. Now, coming to the steering wheel design, love the steering wheel design language from Kia here, and it looks a lot more expensive than what it really is. Now, coming to the buttons, we have your steering wheel mounted audio controls, And then down here we have your voice recognition, your Bluetooth phone controls as well. And then coming over here we have your cruise control buttons. And then this is for your different steering modes, and then this is for your trip odometer too. And that little center screen, which I'll get to in just a second. Coming up here we do have a manually dimming rearview mirror, map lights, and your sunglass container. Now what I really do love about this interior, I think the best part about it is certainly how much passenger space it has. It's pretty roomy feeling, and this vehicle is kind of small on the outside but kind of big on the inside. Now coming down here we also do have two 12-volt power outlets, your auxiliary input, and your USB port with iPod integration, and a little storage cubby down there too. Coming right here we have your parking brake, dual cup holders, and then your center console lid is nice and soft touch. It does have a decent amount of storage space, but nothing's really down there besides storage space. Now coming to the AC controls, love the AC controls in the Soul here. Very simple, very clean layout, big knobs, big buttons, just like how it should be. And then the buttons also feel very high quality feeling. They don't feel cheap at all. Now we do have your fan speeds right here, and then your different zones and your temperatures. Easy as that, very simple. And then right here we have your active eco button, which helps save fuel a little bit. Now coming to your radio, this is kind of like your basic radio that you will find on the Souls here on basic models. And there, of course, there is an optional full touchscreen available with an infotainment system and a multimedia interface. And this is just your basic radio here. Now we do have your presets. Your different media sources do include all of the norm, Bluetooth streaming audio, USB port with your iPod integration down there, and your auxiliary input. We also do have AM, FM radio with satellite radio. However, no CD player inside of here. They're starting to get rid of that now. Now we also do have intermittent windshield wipers, of course. Coming to the gauges, pretty nice gauges here, pretty stylish, very clear and easy to read, very bold font. Now we have your tachometer right there, speedometer surrounding the information center. And basically the information center shows you your exterior temperature readout, your fuel range, and then what gear you're in. And then over here we have your coolant temperature as well as your fuel gauge. Down here we have your traction control off button, and then your gauge brightness. Now as far as the seats go, the seats are pretty comfortable overall. They're not too shabby. I would certainly take this vehicle on a long road trip. They provide a decent amount of support on the side bolsters, and thigh support isn't too bad either. As far as visibility goes, visibility is pretty good out of the front windows. The A-pillar is pretty darn thin, and outward visibility is excellent. When you go to rearward visibility, it gets a little compromised back there due to the C-pillar. I would certainly opt for the rear view camera, however. Alright. And let's go ahead and shut down the Soul. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the vehicle. Now build quality and materials do follow through in the rear. Still nice and soft touch on the armrest. Mid-door panel is wrapped in cloth. Hard touch plastic on the upper door panel, however. Now, sitting back here, you will find a decent amount of space. It isn't too shabby back here. Now, the Scion XB is actually the roomiest in the class. It's a very roomy feeling vehicle, but they're ending production of the Scion XB soon. No map pockets back here. I'm pretty darn surprised about that. And then no rear center armrest either. Of course, map pockets are available on higher end trim levels. But the seats themselves are pretty comfortable. Can't complain about headroom at all in this vehicle. Lots of it. Alright. Now cargo capacity back here isn't too bad. And the rear seats do fold down to maximize cargo space by pushing up on this and then pushing the seat down. Very nice. Full manual passenger seat. Glove box compartment. So with its very attractive cabin with very user-friendly controls, its ample passenger space, and loads of available features, the 2016 Kia Soul is still an excellent vehicle for someone who's looking for funky styling as well as hatchback versatility and a fun to drive attitude. So remember that this is Cameron Birch from Cameron's Car Reviews.